Sawasdee ka. You're watching Focus Thailand at a little bit past 5 here. Let's take a look at the latest headlines here. Her Majesty the Queen has bestowed 100,000 baht to help the PAD protesters who have been injured by this morning's violent crackdown by the police. Her Majesty has also graciously decided to take the injured under her royal patronage. Her Majesty the Queen has graciously bestowed 100,000 baht to help the PAD protesters who have been injured during this morning's violent crackdown by the police. Several of the injured were sent to the Wachira Hospital, which is located near Parliament. The hospital has been requested to forward the cost of medical bills for the PAD protesters to the Royal Household Bureau. Her Majesty has also offered to take the injured PAD protesters under her royal patronage. Being under Her Majesty's patronage means the patients will be well taken care of and, if need be, synthetic limbs would be provided for the injured free of charge. The PAD leaders have estimated that around 100 PAD protesters have been injured. A number of those suffered severe injuries, including a 30-year-old male whose leg has nearly been torn apart by what's believed to be pieces of shrapnel from high-powered tear gas pellets. Some protesters and members of the media have suffered from burns and deep lacerations, also believed to be inflicted by the tear gas pellets. Although the police used violent measures to dissolve the protests in front of Parliament this morning, the People's Alliance for Democracy insists they will continue their gathering in front of the Parliament House. Core leader of the People's Alliance for Democracy, Phop Thongchai, criticized the government for conducting a tear gas attack against anti-government demonstrators in front of Parliament early today, which injured more than 70 people. Phop questioned why the police shot tear gas directly at the rally goers. He said he believes this morning's dispersal was part of the government's plan to help the fugitive premier, Thaksin Shinawatra, and his wife. Phop confirmed that the PAD will remain outside Parliament as well as Government House and that members of the public continue to join the rally. However, there has been no contact from the government to the PAD since the attack. Regarding negotiations between the government and the PAD, he said there must be no constitutional amendment and the People Power Party must withdraw from the country's administration. The PAD core leader also revealed that the group is gearing up to file a damage claim over the dispersal to help the victims. The PAD has also allowed officials of Parliament to leave the compound, but refuses to allow MPs, senators and ministers to leave. People's Alliance for Democracy leader Sonthi Limthongkul announced on the PAD stage last night that the PAD's determination will guarantee their victory. He added that today marks the final D-Day for the People's Alliance for Democracy. Democrat Party leader Apisit Veshashiva, on the other hand, has held a press conference at Parliament earlier today, announcing the opposition group's decision not to attend the government's policy debate after the police used tear gas in their attempt to disperse protesters this morning in order to make way for cabinet members and MPs to enter the building. Upsit also said he will not participate in the meeting with the Prime Minister, the House Speaker and the Senate Speaker until Prime Minister Somchai Vongsuwat has found the people responsible for today's violence and see to all the injured in today's clash. The opposition leader stated that he cannot tolerate the escalated conflict following the unethical use of tear gas against demonstrators, which also reflects the insincerity of the Prime Minister in leading Thailand. He added that the government's persistence to hold a policy debate by pressing on with its majority in lower house without showing any regret for the violent clash means that all it wants is power. Opposite also commented that it is regrettable that no one from cabinet or parliament has publicly shown remorse about this turn of events. The Democrat leader insisted that the party's boycott of the debate does not mean it is siding with the People's Alliance for Democracy. After the press conference, Opposite and his executive team visited all the hospitals where those injured in this morning's clash have been admitted before returning to the party's headquarters to assess the situation. The crackdown by police on the People's Alliance for Democracy protesters at Parliament has been condemned by many people as excessive use of force. This is the firing of round after round of tear gas by the riot control police against the PAD protesters, who gathered peacefully and without arms in front of Parliament since last night to try to block MPs and senators from entering the compound for today's delivery of a policy statement by the government. The incident occurred at 6:20 a.m. as tear gas was fired at protesters bent low and moved out of the area. Approximately 50 people were injured in the incident, some seriously, including an elderly man who lost his left foot. The injured were sent to Wachira Hospital for treatment. Footage from various television stations show that the riot control police shot tear gas bullets directly into the crowd instead of up in the air or in unpopulated areas as is properly done. Wachira Hospital Director Dr. Chaiwan Chok Twi said that most of the 47 injured sent to his hospital sustained burns from explosive shrapnel. Regarding one man's loss of a limb, the director said the skin and bone were completely shredded and shouldn't occur with tear gas bullets. Lawyers, the Council of Thailand Chairman Det Udom Krairit issued a statement condemning the police crackdown on the PAD protesters at Parliament as it was an undue use of force. He expressed sorrow that the police continued to fire weapons into the crowd, knowing that it could cause injury and death, and that the government that ordered this is still facing doubt on its legitimacy. He added that someone must take responsibility for the incident and says low-ranking police officers do not have to follow what he deems as an illegal order, according to the Constitution, as well as the United Nations Agreement on Human Rights, which Thailand endorses. He called on the National Police Office to stop using force against unarmed members of the public and warned that since the order to crack down on protesters was illegal, those who issued it and those who enforced it must take up responsibility. Despite condemnation of the police using a tear gas against the PAD protesters, they fired another round of tear gas at close to noon today near the Ganryeon intersection on Nakhon Ratchasima Nakhon Ratchasima Road to try to prevent another group of PAD protesters from joining the main gathering at Parliament. Various clashes between the police and the PAD protesters continue. In a clash after the second round of tear gas by the police, 2 police officers were injured. One was stabbed in the chest with a flagpole, while the other sustained injuries to his leg. Supporters of the People's Alliance for Democracy throughout the country have condemned the